Okay, let's have a look at the set out. So once again, just tidying up a few bits and pieces. This is our main slab. And all these other little floors you see here are just like tiles and almost like the finished surface flooring, I guess, which is not really important to what we need. So normally we'll hide this, hide and view elements, hide and view elements, hide and view category for that casework, line work, hide the driveway, and now we're left with just our basic slab. Now, typically I'll hide the section and elevation markers in this just because it can get a bit congested. We want to turn on our boundaries. Let's turn that on. This is an interesting site because we have a lot of sort of weird angles going on. But typically what we do is we want to use this plan to position the slab. So I've come over here to our completed example. You can see that we've got our slab here and we've got our set out dimensions that we've used to position the slab in this direction and this direction. So it's exactly the same thing we want to achieve here. We want to set the slab up in this direction and this direction. Before we do that, we have to note where we're showing our strip footing or brick and where we're showing our cladding. So as we can see here, we have a 0.5 dash line that denotes the brick, and in this case where the cladding is, it just stays as the slab edge. So if we have a quick look at the floor plan, we can see the brick starts here, comes up, around the back, and stops on this internal corner here. So if we come back to our set out, what we can do is get our 0.5 dash pen, set the offset to 150, because that's the sizing of the brick and the cavity, and just start tracing around the slab edge. Just tidy that one up. Now we just want to set our floors to a slightly heavier line weight so it matches the dashed line. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Next thing we want to do is if we come over here to our template or reference file, we can see we've got like a bit of a set down for our shower area. So what we do for that is double click on the slab, just turn the globe on, and we just want to create a cutout for the shower. So as you can see there, so it looks like here our shower screen is not quite in the right position. See how it's 900.5? It should be 900. So I'll change that to 900, and we will move the shower screen to the correct position, 900. Okay, so now we've got a cutout here for our shower slab in our bathroom. Now we also have a shower in our ensuite, so we want to come down here to our ensuite, same deal, 900, 1500. So wherever we have a walk-in shower like this, the shower has to be at least 1500 long and 900 wide. So if you ever see a shower that is not quite those measurements, if you ever see a shower that's not quite those measurements, we need to make sure that they are at least that big, otherwise they need a door on them. So if you see a shower that's 1200 by 900, feel free to question it, because in most cases they should be like this configuration. Cool. So we've got our showers, but now we've got a couple of holes here, which is less than ideal. So what we do is create a new floor, waffle pod slab. We set that down -50. So we'll do one for the ensuite and we do for the bathroom, -50. Okay, so now we've got our slabs set out. Now we want to start adding some dimensional work to the set out. So basically the way we do our set outs is basically to the edge, the slab edge or the brick edge that's exposed to that elevation. So for example, we've got a few ins and outs going on here, but these little internal returns here, we wouldn't dimension them on this side. So on this elevation, we can see that slab edge, and that's about it. We chuck an overall on it, something like that. Now on this elevation, we can see that edge, that edge, that edge, that one and that one. So we'll pick them up. Overall. Same with this elevation, we can, when we stand on this elevation, we can see this line here, this line here, this line here, this line here, this one and this one. Can't see this one here because it's indented. But that's okay, we'll still measure that one out. And if possible, we don't just try and make sure the measurements don't cross over the actual. I don't mind if the dimension line goes over the boundary line, but just make sure the text is sort of clear of the boundary line, so it's nice and clear and easy to read. Once again, standing here, looking forward from this elevation, we can see that line, that line, that line, that line, and that line. So let's pick these ones up. Once again, trying to keep the, and the overall is from this face to this face, like so. Alright, so now we need to put a measurements on for these little internal ones. So these we just dimension like this, so they're picked up like so. Now with the shower setouts, these are measured back to the nearest slab edge. So if it's cladding, like this case here, you would dimension to that, like that. If there was brick, you'd dimension it to the face of the brick. So wherever there's brick, you always dimension to the dashed line. Wherever it's cladding, you measure to the actual slab edge itself. So cladding's around here, hence why we've dimensioned to the slab edge, and the brick obviously the dashed line, dimension to the dashed line. So here we'll dimension, set out for that to there. We'll put the set out that to there, and back to here somewhere. Oh, now we want to put some spot elevations on. Normally turn off the leader and the shoulder and the leader. So I've just put that on my slab. Put another one on the set down. So as you can see, 15250, which is 50 mil lower than that. One there as well. Now we just want to format this so it displays correctly. We don't want any decimal places, 0. It's a units format, and we don't want it italic. Now with all our levels, we want them to have the suffix R dot L dot, like that. Now we'll bring in up our template, and we'll bring in some annotation. So I've got some labels here to add. House slab. So I'll position that there, like that. Now the shower ones, I normally just nominally place it next to the shower, wherever works with the dimension, and then just drag down the label like this, so it looks like it's part of the text, like it's nicely spaced underneath it. Another shower up here, so I'll copy that text. That could probably go up here, or once again, just want that label nicely lining up with the label there. The other thing we want to put in as well is just labelling our dash line so it's clear to the builder what the dash line actually represents. So normally probably just do this on maybe each side of the building. Probably don't want it like here, for example. We don't want the text overhanging the building like that. So pick a nice long line of wall and make sure it fits well. Once again, text box aligning with the line, and rotate him around. That covers that off pretty well. Now we've got a little square feature out here, so we need to position him as well. What I might do is actually position him off this dimension here, keep it a nice simple running dimension. In this direction we might position him off this slab edge there, so it looks something like that. Now if we look at our setout, you can see that we have like an overall building profile line which has a diagonal on it. So basically what we do with that is get a 0.1 dashed, and we don't want to draw over existing dash lines, so what we normally do is start there. I might bring this up this way so that aligns through there. Just want to centralize that text just because of this dash line. I can come out to there. So basically that's our building rectangle. You can see through there. It does get a little messy down here with the proximity of these two lines, but no, it kind of is what it is. Then we'll get our diagonal dimension on there. So as you can see here, it's kind of cutting through that label there. So what I'd probably do is maybe just move it out of the way a little bit, or we can move it maybe down there. I think I probably prefer it up here actually, just to make it, once again, keep everything nice and clear. So you can see there, 0.1 dash line. So there's a bit of contrast there between the actual dash line of the brick and the actual building profile. Now, probably the most important part is actually setting out the slab. So how are we going to set this out? So in this particular instance, I think it's probably going to be best to position it off this point here and this boundary here. We're probably going to have to position it off a couple of boundaries. Typically what we would do is position it, we would have the house parallel to one boundary and you would position it like this. There's plenty of good examples in the PDFs I've sent through, so feel free to look at those. I probably haven't picked the best example here because this is a bit of a tricky one. But what we want to do is get a thin line, select the point. So we basically want to position this building rectangle, okay? This is what we're going to be setting out. So let's go to this point of the rectangle to where it meets the boundary. This point of the rectangle down to where it meets the boundary. Might just get our dimensions out of the way a bit. So what we can do is we'll use our set out site setback dimension. Just hit tab until I get the point. Tab. So that's labelled that one. We want a measurement back this way. This is why I've drawn the line in, so it gives me something to pick to. And we'll position it along this boundary as well. On there. And along there. And we'll chuck a measurement here. Like that. And I'll chuck a measurement back here. like that. So basically now that we've got it set out in this direction and this direction, what we'll do is we'll start adding some notes that these are set out dimensions. So under suffix, under the dimension. Now with these little ones where they're under 1500, I'll put the set out text below, just so it's a bit easier to read. There we go. Right, I think that is all good. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to add our datum. So let's come back here. So this is our datum here, which is the little red triangle. So what we typically would do, isolate this line work, copy it into our setout, make it halftone, grab our datum point, once again paste it. Now you'll see that the actual datum didn't come in, and the reason why that is because we don't have detail items turned on, so just something to be aware of. Right, so it looks like we need to set the colouring for this, so we'll just rotate this. Rotate this around. Nice, so it lines up nicely. Override by elements, so we want it red. I don't know, make it 5, see how that looks. Probably got a little heavy. We've positioned it this way, and we've positioned it back this way off the boundary. So I think we're pretty good. So now we'll come to our setout plan, place the view. Well, it looks like we need to crop the view a bit. That's alright. Obviously we've set out to the bottom here, so we don't want to be losing that information. At the top here, we might be losing a bit of info just to help fit it on the sheet. I might, definitely don't want to be doing that. Move down these dimensions a little bit to make it fit. I think that fits on okay. Bring our label over. Go to our floor plan. Copy our north arrow. And there we have it. That's our setout. So another thing to do is a cross check, just to make sure all these measurements are right. These overall measurements should match up to the overall measurements on the floor plan. So once again, if they don't line up, something needs to be fixed. So you probably need to check the slab line to make sure it lines up with the stud line. As you see here, tracing along here, everything seems to line up all right with the shower set down. So that all looks good. But a good way of checking is just cross-checking that these overall ones here, which are always the last couple, that they correlate to the set out measurements that are on this plan. They should match up. So if they don't, something's going on and needs to be rectified. So cool. Anyway, that's pretty much it from the set out. Yeah, cool.